Well, welcome back for more nonsense. This is Cosmere. I didn't really introduce her last time. She showed up and then kind of bugged off, but she is our sweet little barn cat, mighty huntress. Yes, yes. Okay, let's get started. So last time we covered a few things grouped in fours. We talked about the four states of stress. We talked about the four forces of creation, the dual basic urges, as well as the master decision and purpose for living. And then we went into the way the mind goes about trying to achieve the ideal of non-disturbance, or the pursuit of happiness. And so that works into six different tactics, essentially. You had what? Complaining, entitlement, appeasement, submission to authorities, self-improving, and blame. And then as those really take root in the child from infancy, the first three really do, and then the fourth one comes about. It's not until, and I say this having a child and watched this like metastasize in him, and it starts to really set in around what, 5 or 7. The idea of self-improving versus blaming, you start seeing that really in the conflict intensify within the child. Of course, this again vary case to case, but generally around 5 to 7, and that's when a lot of people agree that that is when the personality fully forms and sets. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the setting of the personality. And when it finally metastasizes, that is when it basically converts the awareness function that we are, our true soul, our soul I, essentially, into a chooser that is only able to choose from the suggestions that the mind generates based off of the problems that it perceives. And so you are no longer conscious. You are no longer awake. You are asleep. You as a soul are asleep. And the personality is now running on autopilot. You are an automaton. They joke about NPCs. Well, people who are completely asleep in their conditioning and truly believe that they are separate from the world and are subject to conditionings from authorities, from their own, idols that they want to, destroy themselves to recreate and mimic, all of that, which just confirms for that individual that they are a separate entity. And it is important that they get what they want right now, even if that means giving someone else what they want so that they can get what they want afterwards. It is still, that is the main purpose of living, to get what you want. And what you want is to be happy, which is to not be disturbed with anything. And that is an impossibility. Happiness only lasts for a few moments, and then something else will disturb you. Your stomach will rumble, someone will call, you will get disrupted, you will get disturbed. Okay. So pursuing happiness is a fool's errand. What you might look for instead is just the enjoyment of life. And as that also comes with the acceptance that there is pain. And so you don't have the illusion that you can actually be completely happy, especially all the time, which most of us, when pressed, would say, well, obviously that's not attainable, but we don't act that way. We act as if we believe that is true. So all of the things that we talked about last time are trying to get us that non-disturbance. So let's look a little bit at 4 reasons of importance, of self-importance. Okay. So number 1, the self says, I know what ought to be. Okay. This is, I know what should happen. This is the way that it's going to go, how I'm going to get this job, or this is the way it's going to go when I play this game, or this is the way it's going to go when I ask this girl out, right? And you know how things ought to be. This is what you are owed, okay? So that is one aspect of self-importance. 2, I know I know or could know what everyone needs. Oh yeah, I know what's wrong with you. I know what's wrong with you. And I mean, you could point the finger at me right now and be like, well, aren't you doing that right now? Look, I got into all this because I was messed up and I wanted to know what was going on within me. And so all of this stuff has helped me gain at least a semblance of homeostasis, as I progress through the years. I've been working with this for like 15 years, and it's, I don't care if you do it or not. I love talking about this stuff because it has done so much for me. And if you can take something of benefit from it, please do. If you can't, turn it off. I'm just some weirdo raving on the internet. Okay. Why are you listening to me? Okay. Test this stuff out for yourself. That is the core of this. Do not believe. Do not take another authority from me as I'm sitting here telling you not to. Okay? Test these things out. Look into self. See if these are here. Try and prove this stuff wrong. That's what I did. And it kind of drove me crazy and then led me to be sane. So here we go. We were talking about number 2. I know or could know what everyone needs. So that's, let's say, evangelistic preachers, you get everyone needs the Lord, all they have to do is just hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized, and then they're going to be happy and all in the fold and all that good stuff. People who promise you like that is a thing of self-importance. But it also is in the micro level. You want to try and fix your friends' problems. You want to try and fix your spouse's problems and things of that nature. And you don't really know what's going on there, but self-importance says, I do. Number 3, I know or could know the future. So this is saying, well, I know that the stock market's gonna spike in a couple days, so I'm gonna do this right here, or I know that the conflict in the Middle East is gonna get wrapped up real soon, and we're not gonna have to worry about it. Yeah, no one knows. No, you don't know 5 seconds into the future. I could have an aneurysm while I'm talking and die on this recording. Okay, I don't know. I have no way of knowing, and I'm okay with that. Self-importance is not. Self-importance wants to know the future, believes that it does know the future, which is why how it justifies its actions. Number 4, I know or could know the cause of everything. Now, this, really gets screwed up when we go into the sciences and we start believing in scientism rather than science, which is, the observation and exploration of things. Scientism is taking what has been found and construing it to conclusions that then become a new idolatry, a new religion of sorts. So you can see people who are really simple. It's like, man, I know what's wrong with everybody. And once again, you can point back here. I'm sitting here talking about things that happen in infancy and how it is the cause of all your things in life. Yeah, I mean, I could be completely full of shit. Please, call me out on it if you think that I am. But I'm not approaching this with any level of self-importance. I enjoy talking about these things. And I have had people gave me these things. I didn't come up with this. This is all a compilation of things that I have experienced over 15 years, plus, earlier in my life, but specifically over the past 15 years of intense study on from multiple sources. And so I'm just sharing what's going on with me. I don't care if you do it or not. I don't care if you watch this or not. I love doing this. And I know that there are some people out there who will appreciate this. So we'll move on from self-importance and we'll say, let's look at the 4 great games. Okay. So here on Earth, we are guests. Okay. As far as anyone I've ever talked to, they don't remember signing up to come here. Okay. We just woke up naked and screaming one day, and here we were. And there were people here before us that decided they knew what was going on, as we just said, and made a whole bunch of systems that kind of we get born into, and we're just kind of roped into it. We got to kind of go, and we tend to take these very, very seriously, and really drive our lives around these things. When in actuality, they're just symptoms of self-importance. People before who thought they knew what ought to be, that they knew the future, that they knew what everyone needs, and that they knew the cause of everything. They created these things and cultivated these things, and that's what shifts human culture. So first one would be power policies. Okay, it's kind of like government in a way, in that it decrees what is in and what is out, like what's okay to, like what is popular to do and what is not popular to do, because it is the consensus of the governing body, decides who is us and who is them. So who's our allies and who's against us, both internally, like nationally, or internationally. And so that game that's going on, that is, the deciding of what goes and what doesn't, who are we against, who's on our side, that is moving throughout our world all the time. And you can get really invested and really locked into that game and really, really make it important and waste your life, because that's it's just a game. It is a thing that is trying to get us somewhere, but it's not that serious. No one, no divine entity put that in play and said you have to do this. It's humans trying to figure things out. It's not saying that they don't have good ideas, but you don't have to take things as gospel, right? You can test them. Okay, so now we go to the second great game, which is the healing arts. So this decrees what is normal and abnormal. So this is obviously health wise, but also mental health wise. Um, you can look through cultures throughout history and see how different ones have said this is what's healthy and this is what's not, and how they did it, and it affects that whole culture, what they believe is normal and abnormal. And you can get really invested in that game, you can play that game, you can get real argumentative about it and think that it is the most important thing in the world, and you're still wrong, because it's still a game trying to figure out what's going on, and it is not so serious that you have to just fall in with it. You can test things, okay? You don't have to just say, I agree with Big Pharma or Monsanto or whatever, or Pfizer and their healing things, and just take it. You don't have to play the game and be locked into it. You can test things and step out. Theology is number 3. Decrees what is good or bad or right or wrong, okay? So this is what controls the morality of the populace. And there's obviously many different types of theology, many different types of religions and things of that nature, but each of them has an objective approach to saying this is ultimately true, this is ultimately good, this is ultimately bad, this is ultimately evil, whatever it is. And it leaves little room for nuance. And once again, you can't test it. And so, or you can test it, but you're not asked to test it. You are not to believe that these are games. You were supposed to believe that these are real, these are serious, this is real life. It's not. These are games created to manipulate and control us. Yes, there are some good people who try to actually do good for it, but those things just get pulled in, and they, especially if you don't have the perspective that you are one of with everything, if instead you are separate, then these games look really, really beneficial, because it really helps you separate everything out. What's good, what's bad, what's helpful, what's normal. And so it gives you an organizational structure that you buy into, and then that leads you to follow their life plan. Like how they say, oh, these are all the problems with the world. This is what will fix it. You will be happy if you do these things. This is all huge authorities, like submission stuff we were talking about with number 4, on the 6 elements of the personality. So number 4 is big business. So big business decrees what is pretty and ugly, or smart or dumb. It's what's what's selling, right? What's the height of fashion? What is the best phone or the best car? What's the all of those things. What is selling? So all 4 of these games we don't believe are games. We think that they are serious. There's also like the romance game, that you can get in if you want to and stuff like that. But you don't have to play the romance game. You also don't have to believe what you're told about what, the romance game should be. So there are so many games that go on planet Earth that we believe are really serious, but they're really just us trying to figure things out. And if we are not willing to approach and question those things and really understand what it is that's driving us on these primal, like deeply conditioned levels, it doesn't matter. Like if you're not willing to reevaluate these things, then I mean, you just get to live in accordance with what they say the world is and how you should live in accordance with it. So moving on from there, we're going to go to the 4 variables of balancing stress. Okay. So think of it kind of like a cross. Okay. So you got one on each end, and it's like a weird seesaw balancing situation. So I'll just run through them real quick, and then we'll kind of break them down. So number 1 is nutrition. Number 2 is activity. Number 3 is environment. And number 4 is your inner state. Okay. So each of these are in a balancing thing. So nutrition, if you eat a lot of excess calories, okay, a lot of things like that, then that is going to affect your activity. It might make you sluggish to where you don't want to do activity, or it may make you want to do more activity. And so these things bounce off, because if you eat too much or you don't eat enough, then your body goes into stress. Okay. If you are too active or not active enough, your body also goes into a type of stress. And so these, those two things are obviously very closely balancing each other. Then you have environment. So while I may be of proper nutrition in a particular place, and I may have a healthy level of activity in a proper place. Let's say I ate properly, I rested properly, and I'm going to go do a run. Right, I'm going to go running, and I go and I start running in the park, and there's a big brush fire down the way, and all the smoke is just blowing into the walking running track. And so I'm running. I am properly nutritionized. I am properly active, but my environment is toxic. And so my body will go into stress. I'll start coughing. I'll start hacking. I can't see. My eyes will start watering. You go into a state of stress. So these three things are the most obvious balancing elements of stress, is trying to keep, your environment healthy, and managing that, keeping your nutrition healthy, and balancing that, keeping your activity healthy. And that is that balancing act. But it all pivots on the interstate. Okay. Because it doesn't matter if you have the perfect conditions for all those other three. If you are locked into an illusory belief that something bad is going on, then you will be in stress, even if you've got great nutrition, if you're healthy and active, and you're in a great environment. If you are locked into illusory, stressful states where you believe things that are happening that are not, because you have taken suggestions from within or without, then yeah, you're going to be in stress. You're going, and so the way we want to look at these is, obviously nutrition is what one consumes. Activity is what one does. Environment is what's going on around one. And then the interstate is, what are you feeling? And so this is tying, all of these are like little pieces. Like I said, there's no true separation. There's all these little distinctions. So I'm just throwing little blobs out. And as we go through these, my attempt is going to be to tie together these little thought clouds into something that is coherent, that you now know what I'm meaning when I say a certain word, because I talked about it either in this video or in one previous. I think I am going to cover two more things, and then I will stop this one and make another video, because it's going to get really, really long, and I don't want to do that. So now we're going to move on to another section. First, 4 kinds of love. So we're going to use Greek, okay? Because Greek is very handy, because we in English, at least, have one word for love. Love. I love hot dogs. I love dogs. I love my mom. I love my wife. I love my son. I love my best friend. Every single one of those is a different type of love. But I only have one word to express that. And that gets really, really confusing. So when someone, like, say you're in a relationship and you're having a fight, don't you love me? If you loved me, you would do this. Well, what do you even mean by that? Like, there are nuances to it. And older civilizations really knew this, and they would have multiple words for love. So we're going to look at 4 that are from the Greek to try and give us some distinctions within love, so that we can regulate it and say, okay, this is the type of love I have for this person. So that doesn't mean that I have to do this, or do that, and you can be a little more accurate when considering, the way you express your love. So the first one is Paya. Paya is a familial love. It is the natural endorphin-based love that comes about when a child is born, in the parents and in the child. Okay, there are biochemical responses that happen on both things, as long as they're not intervened with, like in modern medicine. If if it happens to some degree, I'm not going to get into all that nuance. We'll just say that typically there is a biochemical reinforcement of affection for the child-parent relationship, for the family relationship. Okay. And that is a very natural thing. We see that in animals, okay? That there is a love there, Paya, that is a familial type love. So number 2 would be philo, or philos, okay? Which is approval, essentially. It is also called brotherly love, but that basically just means high approval, Like, I approve of you. You are my brother, and I love you, and I want to do that. But it also, Philo, can mean like, I love hot dogs. Okay, it is to my taste. I approve of hot dogs, so I philo hot dogs. Okay, so it is a spectrum of just preference to your taste or approval. Okay. Three is eros, which is physical attraction. That's sexual chemistry. Okay. All three of these loves are natural. All three of these loves are in animals other than ourselves. Okay. We can see these things happen. And they are all conditional loves. Okay. You may have eros for someone, like you just think they're the most beautiful thing in the world. And then, they take their makeup off and you see that that was a sham and you're no longer sexually attracted to that person. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just using it as an example that it is conditional when it comes to sexual attraction. You are attracted to someone because of the conditions, both on their body and how you relate to those things. And so it is conditional. The paya is conditional based off of, because one reason we've seen things screwed up, and I'm not going to get too in the weeds in this, but like the way we handle babies after they are born really puts a strain on this natural biochemical reinforcement. And when we distance the babies, when we dope up the mother, when we basically have them birthing in non-natural ways, it really blocks that. And so the parents and the child are put at a disadvantage from the get-go because they didn't get the biochemical endorphins to enforce that from the get-go. So it is conditional, but it is also, as it goes along, you can end up not liking your family. Just because they gave you life does not mean that they are, that you're bound to them, obligated. If they hurt you, if they do things like that, is conditional. You can break the family love, right? It is conditional. Philos. Well, I mean, I really might like hot dogs until one day I sit down and I eat about 5 of them, and then I spend the next half hour puking my guts up. And then from then on, when I eat, smell a hot dog, I think of that time and I no longer love hot dogs because it is conditional. Okay. Now I might have brotherly love for somebody and that dude may stab me in the back. Well, I may not feel that warm towards him anymore. And so all of those are conditional based. Now we're going to look at the idea of an unconditional love, a love that is not dependent on circumstances, that can endure regardless, that can exist in absence of the other three. Okay. And that, one might argue, is the most valuable of the loves to have, regardless of what other loves might be involved. So we would call this one agape or agape. You've heard this before. It's considered God's love or unconditional love. What does that mean? Okay, so we're going to throw the God thing out because we've been avoiding that because it's complicated. Okay, this is the love of X, we could say, but agape is understanding. It is when someone sees that what everyone is doing, has done, or will do, including self, that at the moment of the doing, whatever they're doing seems right, proper, or justifiable according to which of those not I's, is in charge at that moment. So that means no one ever really does something they truly believe to be evil. Everyone is always the good guy in their own story. Even if they are doing something that the big games and society at large says, well, that's not right. We don't want you to do that, whether it's stealing or murder. That person, when they're doing it, they have justifications. They believe that it may not be right, it may not be proper, but it's justified because these people did this to me, so I am justified in getting them back or justified in these actions. So no one ever does evil knowingly, because they can even say, "Oh, I know this is the wrong thing. I shouldn't kill this person, but they killed my brother, so I get to kill them." That's justification. So they don't feel like they're doing evil. Okay. And when you're doing things, you're operating based off of the best awareness that you have of the situation. So I may uh be in an interaction, think I hear somebody say something, blow up because I think that they just insulted my mama or something like that. And then immediately afterwards realize, oh, I misheard. You didn't actually say that. Okay. And so what happens then? You have reevaluated the situation. Now what's true is value. Another is to please them. So another one has to hop in and clean up the mess of the other, and be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't. I thought you said something about my mom." So at the moment of the doing, you feels right. Like, you did what? And then immediately after, you realize, oh, that was incorrect. So what is the proper thing to do? Apologize. Okay. So everything everyone does, has done, or will do at the moment of the doing, it seemed right, proper, or justifiable according to which I was in charge at the moment. Okay. That is love. It is the idea of forgive them, Father, because they don't know what they're doing. And yes, that can be misconstrued into a superiority complex, but it's more of just like, as you experience agape within yourself and you start seeing, hey, I see the justifications coming up in self because we're watching, right? We're watching the self, those other six elements and stuff like that, and they're all justifying. They're saying this is what we should do, and inside you, you start to understand that. You start to appreciate the state that you're in, the conditioning that you are subject to, and man, uh, it starts to break you in a good way, in the sense of like, oh, I get why I'm just repetitively, robotically doing these things. And then when you see other people acting in those ways, you understand, oh, you are just as clouded as I am. You have these six elements at war in your mind as well. And you're doing what you think is right, proper, or justifiable. I don't agree, but I don't have to hate you for it because you are an unconscious soul subject to the programming of your mind that has gone out of control. So I can disagree. I can stop you. Even up to the point of committing violence against the person to stop them because what they're doing is wrong without hating them because you understand. Like, you may not love them in the sense of you don't have any arrows for them anymore. You don't want to be a part of their family. You don't like them at all, but you don't hate them because you understand the state that they're in because you have understood your own state. So that whole love your neighbor as yourself thing, that is actually agape. So it is understand your neighbor as you understand yourself. Okay. So this is a process of watching the self, examining, trying to figure out what is driving these things. And you look in and you inquire and you question, and you begin to see, oh, that's what's driving that part of me. Okay. Well, what's really true? Because, well, like we said before, the feeling is what is going to communicate with X. And so when you ever been sitting there and you've just been really worried about something was going to happen, and you get that moment, someone calls you and says, "Hey, it's okay," and you have that just that sigh, that relief, that just, oh, it just, you feel it wash over you. That is that feeling of when you're seeing something in your mind and you realize, oh, that's a lie I've been believing and living off of and reacting to for 5 years. That's not true. That's not true about me, or that's not true about that person. I was wrong. And you have that relief. Maybe you feel a little shame. I don't know, but it washes over you. And that sends that message to X of like, that's not true anymore. We don't have, there may be some echoes of it for a little while, but the deeper it is seen that that is untrue about you, the deeper effect it's going to have of removing that tendency from you, because it's only doing it because you said this is what you wanted, because this is what was true and valuable. And now you've just realized that's not true. It's not valuable. It's not what I want. And so things change. That I know that was a bit of a tangent on the feeling thing, but the love does that. That's what the agape is doing, is you're practicing, you're extending agape to yourself and to others. And in so coming to understand life more fully and more peacefully. So and we had those stress states, right? That we talked about last time. The I blame you, which is anger. I blame me, which is guilt. Well, agape does away with those because it says, I'm not going to blame you for this. It's like, yeah, you did something wrong. That was stupid. But I don't hate you for it. I'm not going to blame you for it. I'm not going to get angry at you. I'm just going to deal with what needs to be done. Same thing with guilt. I don't have to sit here and just beat myself. I'm so stupid. It's like, yeah, because you've been believing lies your entire freaking life. You don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to beat up others like that. Agape. Understand your neighbor as you understand yourself. So now we're going to end here on the four ways of man, okay, or four ways of humanity for those of you who want to, update things for modern audiences. The four ways of humanity. First, we have the way of the jungle, the way of survival, the way of primal survival of the fittest, kill or be killed. It is what got our early ancestors to the point where they could start making cities and stuff, where they had to kill a lot of the predators. They had to fight each other. With all of it was just pure conflict until number two came along, the way of justice. And we have evidence of that in Hammurabi's Code. We have the, much later versions of the Bible and things of that nature. But all the different cultures, they decided this is the law. You can't just kill someone because you don't like them. If you punch someone in the face, guess what? You get to get punched in the face. If you kill someone's donkey, guess what? They get to take your donkey. If you kill someone, guess what? You get to get killed. It's the eye for an eye, and an attempt to counteract the externalized violence of the first way. Okay. The second way is internalized violence. All right. Because then you have to, I can't, you're enforcing, I can't just push that person around. Okay. I have to find another way to get what I want. And that's where that real conflict started happening on a larger social level for humanity. So the third way is said to have really been introduced around the time of either the character of the Buddha or the character of Jesus, in explaining the concept of understanding, of love. Okay, the third is the way of love, which is agape, and we just talked about that. Okay, and so what agape does, I didn't realize it. She's still sitting here sleeping. Oh, that's so cute. What agape does, uh, in this, since you're observing the self, right, and you're starting to learn passion and understanding for the self, you're observing. What are you observing? The first two ways manifesting within yourself, because you've already been conditioned with the first way, and you have already been conditioned with the second way, and you are a conglomeration of conflict between these two ways. The third way begins to look at that conflict and observe it, comprehend it, understand it, reevaluate it. Okay. It's not that you're going in and you're like, oh, this is stupid, this is bad, this is bad. No, it's just, what's going on here? Oh, that's not true. Oh, that's not, okay. So I don't have to do that anymore. You're not beating yourself up. You're not blaming and going at yourself. You're just going, oh, that's not true. I don't have to believe that. I don't have to act like that anymore. So that is what the third way does, is it is the process of observing your conditioning, the nature of your conditioning, and bringing about that compassion and understanding within yourself for yourself and others, because they are going through this too. They may never never realize it. It is not your job to tell them. Like, you're here because you clicked. Okay. You didn't have to click. All right. It is not your job to tell them, to preach to them, to make them do anything like that. You do need to, be able to operate around them and everything. So you can, using agape, operate around them in ways that does not harm them. You can be harmless while also protecting yourself. Okay. So the the third way observes the first two ways within self, begins to understand and reevaluate it, and as that transformation begins to come about, because it's not something you're doing, it is something that is happening because you are determining that it is true and valuable to do so. That is that is really unlocking that, because you're turning the self-importance aspect to inquiry of like, am I the most important thing? Maybe something else is going on here. Let me look myself with understanding. Okay. And as one goes through the third way and has this experience within self, you can come into the fourth way, which is the way of consciousness or intelligence. In this, you acknowledge that you are able to be aware and in charge of your inner state. You take on that responsibility. And instead of just contemplating in the way that the third way kind of goes about, this is a more deliberate thing. Part of this, what I'm telling you, is the way of intelligence. It is the fourth way. Okay. Because it is this very simplified consolidation of information that anyone can approach, comprehend, and use to whatever degree they want to attain whatever degree of liberation they are willing and able to attain. And so you the third way will have to come about in you, but by using the tools of the fourth way, one can expedite the process. It is still work, it is still painful, it is still unpleasant, but that is what one can do. So, since that, I don't even want to look at what the timestamp is on this. It's probably a long one. Okay, not going to apologize for that, because I think that that was a nice little overview of some other things that are kind of building it up. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to take a little break, and then I am going to record this bottom half, which will be an expansion on the 7 elements that we talked about in the first video. Okay. And we're going to talk about how we can go from noticing these aspects of our personality shadow and seeing them for what they are, and begin to integrate and illuminate them and enlighten them, essentially, in the sense of finding where these things actually had a purpose that was lost along the way within the self, and how one might be able to reorient the frame of reference to encourage the cultivation of those types of a new type of viewing the world. So thanks for hanging out. Any questions, please just put them out there. I will try to address them in the next ones. I am really enjoying this. I don't know what type of reach this will get. I don't really care. It's just fun for me to try again to express the weird, crazy ways that I see the world. And I've really appreciated that there have been multiple people who have actually been interested in hearing about that. So I wish you all the best, and I will see you in the next one.